is the greatest moment in my life.
Hey, yo. How the devil are we? BenNny, you good, mate?
Yeah, I did forget to put my thumb over the camera, though.
It's done now, mate. It's done. We're nothing if not professional on this show. How you doing, pal? You good?
Yeah, I'm all right. My throat's a bit raspy. I'm doing other stuff today, recording stuff, so my voice is a bit like I feel it's getting sore. So I apologize if it breaks somewhere during the excellent episode of Chain Wrestling. I am now on again for some reason.
You are indeed. Late notice. I know. Late notice. I know. Mr. Mags has been called away at the very, very last moment on a guava gathering contest. So he's a bit busy this evening. More vegetable and fruit related missions for him there. So BenNny has stepped in at the very last minute to fill the hot seat and sit alongside me once more to bring you another fantastic, exciting episode of Chain Wrestling.
I am the Byron Saxton of this show, basically.
You are the Byron Saxton, are you? Okay.
Nobody wants me, but you've got me, basically.
Fair enough. Very quickly, I will jump into the chat before we start the usual. Mr. Matt Willis, I see your comment there very early on. It's Monday night. You know what that means. Yep, Man United lost again. No, mate, we didn't even have a game. So if you're going to try and wind me up, at least get your facts straight, eh? But anyway, I can see my good lady, as always. It's Monday night. You know what that means. Indeed, we do. Indeed, we do. It is Chain Wrestling Live. So here we go then. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever and whenever you may be listening or watching from. This is Chain Wrestling Live with Cy and not Mags again. Just yet. Very soon, hopefully. A Radio Techers production. I am Cy, and with me this week is the Olympic hero to my lazy zero. I am pretty bone-eyed when it takes me. The showstopper to my Golo Whopper, my belly, obviously. Get your mind out of the gutter. I'm talking about my stomach. Okay. A podcaster that's making a great comeback of his own here this week, even if it has only been sort of 6.5, 7 days since he was last here, I suppose.
Yeah.
Mr. BenNny Mac. Glorious to have you along again, my friend.
Thank you very much for the invite. Even if it was late, I've just realised I could, instead of being the Byron Saxton, I could be the AJ Styles when they run out of wrestlers that won a few years ago when everybody was stuck overseas and they needed, it was supposed to be Finn versus Bray, but they had to call AJ Styles in for the last minute and ended up being a pretty good match, to be totally honest. So I don't feel so bad now, actually.
Yeah, fair enough, mate. Fair enough. AJ Styles.
No, I'm not suggesting I'm the phenomenal one, but you know.
We'll very quickly jump into the chat before we get on with the rest of today's show, because we have a lot to get through. And as everybody knows from last week, BenNny likes to fucking talk. So we have here Dan Griffin saying, good evening, you a veritable bevy of beautiful bastards. We are indeed that. Matt Willis saying we needed guava for the new Chain Wrestling smoothie recipe. Sounds a bit too complicated for me, my friend. I hope Magsy can take care of that. Connor in the chat as well. Good afternoon, Cy and BenNny. Afternoon, I suppose, where he is. Yeah, fair enough. Morty saying, we want you. Okay, that's quite intense, but fair enough. The
So
Percy Watson.
yeah.
The Percy Watson, Morty says.
I'll take that. Percy was all right.
Was he really? Okay.
He was all right. He's no Maranello, but, you know, who cares?
And Matt Willis there saying, Bray had meningitis, and that's why AJ had to take his place.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
Wasn't there also an instance, I'm thinking of an instance where people couldn't fly for some reason?
I can't remember. I think it was actually the meningitis thing. There's, I think, a bit later on, they did a Saudi Arabia show, didn't they?
That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, and NXT did the invasion stuff, which was pretty good for, you know, for the time. You couldn't do it now with the NXT 2.0 stuff, but, you know.
That's the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
With AJ filling in because the Saudi trip caused people an issue. Getting back in time for fair enough. The Hairy Housewife, Fitch here, greeting you back, Mr. BenNny Mac. Return of the Mac. Come on, Return of the Mac. Oh my God, you know that I'm not carrying on with any more of that. That's
that Return of the Mac. When I used to do when I used to do the volunteer radio stuff on base radio, my theme for a while was Return of the Mac, the instrumental in the background.
That's right,
was my thing for a while. So yeah, much appreciated, Harry. Housewife.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So then here we are again on another Monday evening. A very muggy, hot, warm, horrible, sticky Monday evening here in Gloucester in the UK. BenNny, how is it where you are, my friend?
It's been one of them days today, to be fair. So it's been a bit up and down. Showers out of nowhere. I thought it was going to thunderstorm. It feels like thunderstorm weather at the moment. Whether it's going to happen, I don't know. But it is quite warm in here. Obviously, I'm also, like yourself, cramped into a small space.
Yes.
PC running, monitors going. So there's a lot of heat coming out of here anyway. So, but
Yeah, I mean, my camera, thankfully, isn't quite good enough to catch this. But I am actually literally sweating as I'm sat here now. It is so hot in this room. So
please,
please, yourself bear with me.
One of these lights, mate.
Just... One of those lights glaring. Oh no, I'm okay, thanks. Do you remember when we did commentary for Evolution Wrestling, you and I?
Oh Jesus, yeah.
And we were sat up on the entranceway, weren't we, by where the wrestlers come in, and they'd not thought it through, and basically put the announcers the commentators table where BenNny and I were sat.
Table. It was a leftover bloody snack table from behind.
Okay, but up against this kind of side of the barrier where some of the lights and the signage was, and it was so hot. I had a light like literally there, wasn't it, BenNny? And when I come away, when we finished the sort of 3-hour show, that one half of my face was pink, wasn't it?
It was sweating. I mean, I was warm sat next to you, to be fair. But I was near the entrance, like where they came out. Got shunned by the by the GL2 lot, didn't I? Do you remember? Put my fist down. They were like, "Hey, fist bumping you." I was like, "Damn it, I'm the heel. You're supposed to fist bump me." But yeah, man, that light was literally like below. I think it was below you a little bit, but it was kind of pointing up.
Yeah,
heat, man. But I think some of that is also, to begin with, at least, as per usual. Once we get going, we're fine. But like, I think there was nerves, wasn't there? Because we were 2 hours before the show kicked off, and it was our first time doing it. I say live, it was live, but only the people near us could hear us doing commentary. Not everybody could hear us. But yeah, you were well, I was as well, mate. But you were like one half. You're like Two-Face.
Yeah, that's right. I was like a what are those sweets called? A refresher, is it? Or a squishy? You know the ones I mean, with a half white. Yeah. That's what I look like after that.
It's
like
before and after.
Yeah, exactly. Shall we crack on then, my friend, and get rid of a couple of embarrassing gimmicks, hopefully banished forever into the Chain Wrestling Hall of Fame?
That will never get old.
There we go. So then, what have you got for us this week, BenNny Bud?
I thought of a couple, but I'm going to go. Whether this is going to be my last time on Chain Wrestling, I don't know. But it's not that I hate the gimmick of it. It was the way that it was dealt with in this situation. Santino Marella, obviously, if you don't like Santino Marella's Cobra on his arm, then you probably don't like Mr. Socko. You know, well, that's a different story. But in this particular scene, it was on a SmackDown in 2013, I think around September, if my notes are correct. And basically, Santino's doing the Cobra. He's done the whole movement and everything. And basically, I think it was Jinder Mahal and the Great Khali started playing. And they were like snake charmers. And his arm was suddenly getting drawn to these two Indian blokes, or Indian heritage at least, towards this bloody snake charming thing for his sock on his arm, you know? And it's, again, one of those moments you're trying to explain to somebody why you like wrestling. That is not one of them, you know? Is it on the level? Do you know what? I think it's on the level of Miz and Zombies, to be honest, which is what I put in last week. So, yeah, that's my Hall of Fame.
Ultimately, very cringe. That's the whole point. Yes, that's the whole. You know, it's very incredibly. It's cringe-worthy. It's embarrassing as a wrestling. I mean, I get how little kids could find it funny. So from that aspect, fair enough. But we're looking at embarrassing, cringy, horrible. You know, and that. Mate, honestly, that nails the criteria 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Anyone. The thing is, I hope now, like people might, watching here, and people might hear this on the audio version later in the week, might actually seek that out now. So you might find, on the network or on YouTube, that silly little clip might get a spike of, I don't know, a couple of people extra watching it potentially. Yeah, the Cobra getting distracted by a bloody flute player. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean the video is now that I read it, it's quite cringy even more. Santino, so I can't even read it. Santino Marella gets his Cobra charmed, and it's from SmackDown, 27th of September 2013. So that's when it happened, according to YouTube at least, anyway. So, but
An
I don't want to
incredibly cringy moment.
I don't want to Santino's. I don't want to see it getting charmed ever
No,
again.
definitely not. Definitely not. What year was that? Sorry.
2013, according to the video I found on YouTube.
Okay. Okay, I'm going back a little bit further to 2004 for my entrance into the Hall of Fame this week. And it comes from SmackDown, funnily enough, the SmackDown side of one of the original brand extensions, brand splits, I suppose, here. And
Right.
Scottish Danny, if you're in the chat, this will be right up your street, my friend, because I know you're a big fan of this era of wrestling. Hopefully, you're not a fan of this guy, because I don't want to cause any offense, but he deserves his place, I believe, in the Hall of Fame. In 2004, I suppose a few vignettes or promo videos started being aired on SmackDown, which was quite effectively the mid card in SmackDown, especially. It's quite a weak brand at one stage, and this was a promotional effort to sort of tell you that this all in white religious character is on his way. And it was obviously being set up to be a long-term opponent for The Undertaker. And it was effectively a guy from one of their developmental territories, OVW, called Kevin Furtick, who people may know as the vampire character in the ECW, WWE version of ECW with Ariel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Before he was the vampire on ECW, Furtick had a short run as Mordecai. Now, this guy, if you've not seen him, the vignettes were effective. They were good vignettes. As silly as the character is, he was dressed all in white. He had a white beard. He had white hair. He he came out to the ring to this mist and carrying a big staff, I suppose, and very religious kind of leanings to the character.
Yeah.
The message he was sending, that he was coming to sort of cancel out all the sin, and he was here to, lead people into the light and all this sort of stuff. But then the issue was, these vignettes ran for several weeks, and his debut match was at Judgment Day, which was a pay-per-view. So again, that's a big deal for a guy to make his debut on a pay-per-view.
Yeah, yeah.
And his match was against Scotty 2 Hotty. Mentioned right there in the chat. Look at the timing. Morty there squashed Scotty 2 Hotty in his debut match. He did indeed, and he squashed Scotty 2 Hotty, and was there thinking, okay, not too bad, I guess. It's a squash match. It wasn't great by any stretch of the imagination, but it weren't. But then he started actually wrestling on a more regular basis, and you realize that okay, the gimmick's a bit cheesy, but at least the vignettes or the video were half decent. But to coin a phrase heard on Bruce Pritchard's podcast, then that bell had to ring. And oh my goodness, this was terrible. This was so bad. All of a sudden then the gimmick became worse because the guy in the ring was so terrible. When he returned as the vampire in ECW, very, very similar, but he'd improved. But Mordecai itself, that gimmick, that image,
didn't work.
The couple of months run, and then he's disappeared back to OVW again because they realized, we've shit the bed with this. So that's my entrance into the Hall of Fame this week, BenNny.
I don't remember that. I remember the vampire in ECW, but I didn't. Obviously, I know you're on about now, but I didn't see that run. What he did at all, to be fair.
Literally for a few months. That's all it was.
Well, by the sounds of it, it needed to be a bit like a right to center-esque type. Maybe he should have been like the Steven Richards and had a few followers that did his bidding and be the cult leader rather than being the guy in the ring, by the sounds of it, based on what you've just told us. So
yeah, potentially, I suppose.
Maybe.
Potentially.
You could be one with that beard, to be fair.
Well, maybe, mate. I ain't dying mine white, though. There's enough greys. There's enough greys coming through on its own. You know what I mean? In the chat, we have Morty here again saying JTG did the best sell of the Cobra ever. Wow, that's quite a reference. Isn't it? JTG, Crime Time, the tag team. Wasn't it? Do you remember those?
Yeah. Freaking, I loved them back in the day. I thought they were brilliant, to be honest. They did well. Shame things panned out the way they'd have personally and professionally with them. But it was great, man. One of my favorite Santino Marella moments is when he almost won the world. I think it was the world heavyweight title, and he was the last member. He was the last person against, I think, Daniel Bryan in an elimination chamber.
In the chamber, yeah.
The crowd were going mental for him. So to say, the Cobra is a bit cheesy, but you can live with it. But like to be charmed, don't do it. No.
It's the undercard factor, the underdog factor. Sorry for the whole
Yes,
Santina thing in the chamber, wasn't it?
Yeah, of course it
But,
is. Yeah.
actually a member of the Hall of Fame himself, but in the guise of Santina Morella when he was turned up as his sister. So
I was actually in London in 2009, and they did that thing where Santina was in the ring and Santina was on the Titantron, and it was supposed to be her live in Italy or something.
Okay.
And the video speeds up, and I don't, Santina Morella, but like, he's like, shut up in your face, Santina. Like, she's had too much Red Bull and stuff like that, and it was just entertaining, for that segment. It wasn't the best segment in the world, but it was funny in the few moments it had. So
yeah, the guy was entertaining as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
I thought he was. I thought he was good. I thought he was good. We have here Dan Griffin saying, "You can't wait to see Scotty 2 Hotty wrestle live in July. What a dude!" And he follows it up with, "Mordecai was utterly shite though." Yep, 100%, 100%. JTG is still going on the Indies, and he's better than ever. Fair play. Morty, he's in NWA 2, isn't he, Dan? And he appeared at the Hall of Fame. And Dan confirming, yeah, he's in a tag team with Fandango. Oh my God, what a combo that is! Fandango and JTG.
I thought, I obviously haven't watched it for a while. I thought Fandango had made a comeback with Breeze and Breezango, to be honest. So obviously I missed
that was a little while back though, wasn't it?
Yeah. I always thought they should have been called for Breeze, that tag team, to be fair, but
There's probably some copyright issues there.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Probably. Yeah, I mean, as I said, those are your two entrants into this week's Hall of Fame. Mordecai and Santino's Cobra being charmed, I guess, is how we want to word it, potentially.
However you want to, what you do with it is up to you.
Yeah, what you do in your own business, in your own time is your own business, Before we get to Twitter and all of our wonderful listeners, watchers, members of the CWF messaging in to our non-wrestling topic this week, BenNy, you want to have a little quick chat about what you're doing on Twitch at the moment, don't you? And the possibility for people to effectively plug their own podcasts and so on via what you're working on.
Well, I mentioned it last week when I was on, but we do a bit of a fantasy booking, as you well put last week, of using WWE 2K22. Me and my buddy Nick have picked our respective rosters. I run Raw. He runs WCW. I did a couple of shows today, but we plugged. I thought it'd be quite cool because I want people to get immersed in it a little bit, like with the GMs, and I'm just doing commentary essentially. To people to get behind it and sort of cheer for their favorites and stuff who they want to see. We're doing a draft thing this time as well with a logo and stuff. You'll see it on Sunday if you tune in about 7:15 UK time. Benny Mac Gaming. But I think you've got a clip anyway. But I always I want to try and immerse people into it for the hour that it's on or whatever. So I thought it'd be cool to advertise something. And I thought, well, why not jump into Radio Techers stuff and CWF and all that kind of stuff? And if you've got a podcast, guys or girls, and you want to plug it, and the only thing I'm asking for at the moment is a follow, basically, on Twitch, and then we'll play. And we'll, your show has been literally Nitro Nights has been essentially a sponsor this week for the shows, and then that day one, another one's going to come in and for the pay-per-view, and then for that week, and for a week, we'll plug your podcast for you basically while it's being streamed as a wrestling event, if that makes any sense. Hopefully I've not made that too complicated.
Well, for the benefit of those who are watching the live version, I don't know how this will come across on the audio version, but by all means, go back and check it out on YouTube and so on. I'll play a little clip now of what you did on today's show. Plug in Nitro Nights, mate.
I have no idea who's going to win this match, and that's what I love. We're about to crown the first WWE Tag Team Champions here on Raw. The main event's brought to you by WCW Nitro Nights. Go check it out every Thursday on Radio Techers with Cy and Scottish Danny. One episode of Nitro at a time. Relive the good old days, or were they the bad old days? Who knows? Go check it out. There you go.
Good old days or the bad old days.
It came to me while I was doing it, mate. So, I've plugged it a couple of times, and then I thought we'll plug it in the main event, as well as the the last team was entering before we crowned our first tag team champions. Basically, we made all the belts ourselves, by the way, as well. So
Yeah, cool. I mean, I reckon it's great. I don't fully understand what's going on, but it's still good for me to watch, mate. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed a few minutes that I caught today. It was excellent stuff. So yeah, no, I appreciate it, and I appreciate the plug for Nitro Nights as well. That
no
is
worries.
great stuff.
It fits right in to the wrestling fans. Hopefully, it's like a fantasy booking type thing. Basically, is what we're aiming for, with a bit of fun, talk a bit of wrestling as we're doing it. Normally, it's mainly me doing commentary during the weekly shows, and then my buddy NJB is free on Sunday, so he jumps in on the pay-per-views and talks smack with me, and I talk smack back, and we put matches against each other to see which one of our guys or girls will win for the next pick, basically. So yeah, check it out. The best thing to do is check it out. That's all I can say, really.
Yeah, have a look. I mean, you share it on Twitter and everything, don't you? And you can plug you can see on screen where you can find BenNny on Twitter, but also you'll get more details for his Twitch and so on at the end of the show when we do our usual plug-in of all of our stuff, I guess.
Cheers.
So then, our non-wrestling topic this week was the greatest ever comebacks, is what we're looking at. Greatest ever comebacks. So that's, we said anything, television, music. We thought a little bit of wrestling might slip into our non-wrestling topic this week, but that's fine. We'll allow it just this once, but let's not make a habit of it. Sporting comebacks, movies, anything at all, any form of a comeback. And that's kind of what we went with. Can get the teeth in then. That's kind of what we went with. And we got loads and loads of responses. So what I will do, BenNny, is what I normally do, run through them on Twitter and WhatsApp and so on in the order they came into us.
Cool.
And we'll just have a little read of what people are suggesting and give our own thoughts, I guess, mate.
Yeah, cool.
Okay, we start with Rob at UTT Rob on Twitter. Also, check out the amazing UTT podcast and all the kind of spin-offs from that as well, involving Mr. Dan Griffin and UTT Rob as well. Always a brilliant listen there, out on a Monday morning, so check that out. Rob says, without a shadow of a doubt, the greatest ever comeback in TV history is Bobby Ewing in Dallas. After being written out of the show with the character being killed off a year earlier, Pam, who I'm assuming is just another character on the show, wakes up and he's in the shower, and the entire last season was just a dream. Now, that sounds absolutely ridiculous, but I spoke to the wife about this.
I've heard that before. I don't know it, but I've heard that before, yeah.
It's so silly. But Sharon said that when Bobby Ewing was effectively killed off, ratings dropped dramatically.
All right, okay.
So they panicked and brought him back. But the only way to bring him back was to literally have it. And the scene is funny because she wakes up and she's, bear in mind, this whole year of television has gone on. A whole year, a whole season of television has gone on. They wrote off that whole year because she wakes up and thinks that everything has been, because he's just in the shower like, oh, hiya, love. It's nonsense, mate.
I mean, they could have done it a bit better. Maybe they could have had one of them in a coma, maybe, rather than just a dream for a year. But I've never watched it, so that's mental. That is. Imagine didn't do that in like Coronation Street or EastEnders or something.
Yeah, that's it. When just bringing back like one of the Mitchell brothers or something like.
Yeah, none of them. That's weird, isn't it? It's right off a whole season as a dream as well. I don't think I've. I mean,
you think about, put that into context, mind. So in that season,
what's that? 24 episodes?
I don't know. It's a year of TV, isn't it? They say.
Yeah. Okay.
But in that time, characters could have got married. Characters could have had children.
Yeah.
All of that has to be scrapped, and they have to revert back to what the characters and the storylines were a year ago to make it make sense.
Yeah, I would be interested to know how many characters died in that season that didn't die. Essentially, they could have brought back loads of characters.
It's mad. It's actually. I'm guessing that's how it would work, or they've just gone, oh, it was a dream, sod it, and carried on anyway. I don't know.
I bet there's a lot of inconsistencies in that season.
Yeah, I imagine. I imagine.
Wow, that's mental.
Millwall Chris on Twitter at Millwall Chris 1. I can't speak this evening, mate. I keep getting all my words. Yeah, exactly. Like Bill and Ben the Flower Pot Men. I sound like. Millwall Chris says greatest comeback ever, and I hate the fact he's even reminded me of this. The greatest comeback ever has to have happened at Halloween Havoc 1995, the WCW pay-per-view. The Giant, or the Big Show, as we know him now, was pushed off the roof early in the card to later return in the evening, wrestle in the main event, and in a way win the world title. He managed to take part in a very strange three-way hug on Hulk Hogan as well. I don't know if you've seen that, BenNy, but we recently covered it on Nitro Nights. They were having a monster truck tug of war on the roof of this skyscraper, the roof of this massive building. And that was
That's
one...
new.
Mate, honestly, WCW in 95 is really strange. And the Giant ends up falling off the top of the building, and they're acting like he's dead. They are selling this like the guy is dead. And then and then for the main event, he's supposed to be wrestling Hogan, and he just walks out without a scratch on him. This guy's fallen, like, I think they said 4 stories. Scottish Danny in the chat. Good evening, CWF, he says. Danny, we are just discussing the greatest comeback of all time, apparently from Millwall Chris, is the Giant coming back at Halloween Havoc 95. So please remind me, did they say it was 4 stories or 40 stories he fell from? You'll have to remind. But that was...
I've seen clips of the monster truck stuff, but I wasn't aware of this poor wife falling off the bloody building and dying, but not dying. Was it a dream? Was that what was
yeah, Hulk Hogan just found him in the shower later on. Mate, honestly, I would happily catch that scene of Hogan finding the Giant in the shower if it meant that the whole of 1995 WCW didn't happen.
That's how you get rid of it, or just by, it was a dream, sorry.
Exactly. This is going to get a lot of love from my good lady in the chat. At Rain Counter on Twitter, our good friend Paul Tolley, absolute top bloke. I've got so much time for this guy. Really glad to hear him, read him messaging into the show again. He says, greatest comeback of all time. Well, that's easy. Take that.
Yeah.
Yeah? Is that what we're getting? Is that
what I know. What job for me is Take That. I don't dislike Take That, but when they were sort of big, I don't know how old I was, but I wasn't listening to Take That, to be totally honest.
Yeah.
I've gotten into some of their older stuff, their newer stuff later on. I mean, was it the one they did for the film, Stardust or whatever? That was quite a good track, you know.
I don't know, man. I got no idea.
I've listened to a couple of like older ones, and obviously, to be honest, the main thing I remember is like, because I remember everybody, I think I just about remember people freaking out when they split up, and then Robbie Williams releasing like Angels, and that was like a big deal for a while. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, I'm not really up together with my Take That knowledge, to be honest.
I bet you'd love the video where they're all rolling around in the jelly, mate, at the very beginning of their career.
Okay, I don't want to see that either.
I bet that would be your favourite.
That sounds like your wet dream, mate. I don't know what's going
on. Morty in the chat there saying, bloody hell, Danny, directed at our later rival, Scottish Danny here. Bloody hell, Danny, you rocking up 10 minutes after they slagged off Mordecai. I needed you. Sharon saying, the greatest comebacks of all time, Edge, and then mic drop. Oh, we're going to come to that. Trust me, we're going to come to that.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Scottish Danny, Mordecai has been slagged off. The crime? No, I stand by everything I said. I don't give a shit.
Based on how
Sharon
you just saying, it does sound
back
shit.
for good.
Oh, well, yeah, I know that one. That's what you call the episode now, Back for Good.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Speaking of Scottish Danny, we have his message here on Twitter, at Scottish Juggalo on Twitter. He says, the greatest comeback of all time, it's got to be Vince McMahon. Only 1 week after his limo exploded with him inside it, the man made a full recovery and was back on TV without even a scratch. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. It was a dream, though, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, that's it. Stephanie found him in the shower.
With Trish Stratus.
Oh, mate, don't. I remember that because it's a real long scene of him walking through.
Oh, it's cringy
backstage of SmackDown, nodding at people, and he gets in the car and it just goes boom. And that's SmackDown going off the air. But wasn't this...
Was it SmackDown or was it Raw?
I'm fairly certain it was SmackDown.
Okay, yeah.
Because he was back on TV for the following... No, he wasn't. Yes, he was back on TV for the following Raw. Because of what happened. It was all because that weekend was the Chris Benoit
It was all
tragedy, wasn't it? It was the horrific actions of Chris Benoit.
Yeah, I still can believe it because I think it was No Mercy pay-per-view, and I think it was supposed to be Benoit versus whoever the ECW champion was at the time, but it ended up being Johnny Nitro, who ended up becoming John Morrison, and he became ECW champion. And then obviously the events of the weekend came to fruition Tuesday,
Yeah.
I think. So that on ECW, Vince McMahon suddenly on screen going, the events of the weekend of after they did a tribute on Raw. Oh, sorry, Stephen Richards. They did a Raw. They did a Raw of a tribute to Stephen Richards. As a yeah. Then on Tuesday they had to announce that actually these are for the people that are suffering from all the what's happened. Basically, I remember that. But yeah, the scene of him walking. I remember he has like a looking up to the heavens, and Jonathan Coachman has to go, "Sir, your limo's this way," and point him to a different direction. But the whole his foot went in the car, it came out. It was like it just seemed very what the hell, to be honest. So,
and apparently, again, second time this guy's come up, but apparently on Bruce Pritchard's podcast, he talks about this storyline because it's one of those great unfinished storylines, isn't it? I mean, if you go back in the archives on Chain Wrestling, we've got we've got a topic of the greatest wrestling storylines that never got a conclusion or just went away or made no sense at the end. This is one of them because McMahon's dead. He's been blown up in his limo, and then he's on TV next week, and it's never mentioned again. Apparently, they wanted Vince off TV. So rather than just find a reason to write him off, Vince said, well, I can't be on TV if I'm dead. So they killed him off. But they had even that week when they set up the stunt, they had no plans as to who was going to be blamed for it. They had no plans as to, if he was ever going to come back, how they're going to explain it. It was just literally, oh, we'll kill him and we'll just make it up as we go along.
I thought when he did come back on TV, I thought when he was actually in the ring, somebody told me this. I don't know if it's actually accurate. That apparently his excuse was he did it to see if anybody would miss him. So it was like,
I don't remember that.
So, okay. I don't know whether that somebody told me that, and I never actually, because I saw it, I knew he wasn't dead. Everybody in the audience is really shocked, and I'm like, well, he's not dead. Clearly, they're not going to kill him live on TV, are they?
Well,
have you not seen the Buried Alive match before?
A bit more on Take That in the chat here. Sharon saying she's loved Gary Barlow for nearly 30 years. Fuck, I'm old, my wife says.
I spat my drink out when I read that.
Dan Griffin here saying the best comeback he's ever heard from a comedian to a heckler was Jimmy Carr ignoring a guy who said, come on, where's your comeback? And Carr said, well, do you want my comeback? You tell your mum to cough. Oh, dear me. Dear me. I hope my children aren't watching.
I think that was one where he said you can scrape it off your mum's teeth.
That's what I heard, yeah.
Yeah, so...
Yeah. Oh,
what turn the show is taken without Mags. Look, he needs to come back.
It's shocking, mate. It's shocking. Dan Griffin in the on the Twitter here, sorry, at Dan Griffin at 21 on Twitter. He says here, sporting wise, back in 2005, on a balmy night in Istanbul, a team called Liverpool were 3-0 down at half time to one of the best AC Milan teams of all time. They pulled it back to 3-3 at full time and defied the odds to win the Champions League on penalties. And even as a United fan and somebody who is, I'm not particularly, I don't like Liverpool, let's be blunt about it. That was absolutely incredible. That was a spectacular night. That really was. Dan Griffin continues. For TV, the best comeback has to be Doctor Who. After being a national institution and then getting cancelled for 16 years, it came back as good, if not better, than ever in 2005. And I think that's a really good shout. People seem to forget how long it was off air. It went off air in 1989.
Yeah. That's
an incredible amount of time.
Yeah. It's, like you said, it's got a massive comeback. And I don't know how much longer it's got or how they're going to do things. I'm reading, people coming into it. Apparently, Tennant's coming back with Catherine Tate and stuff. So, but because we're reaching the 60th anniversary.
That's right. Yeah, November.
So I mean, I'm trying to catch up, to be honest, because I loved it when Tennant and stuff and Matt Smith did it. Matt Smith, he grew on me. Capaldi, I never got into, so I'm trying to watch it now. And actually, he's not as bad as I thought he was. But I think. Come on, Doctor Who pod, but I think it was just a case of all the story we had up to the 50th anniversary came full circle for me, so it kind of felt like a natural stopping point for myself at the time. So, but yeah, that's a great shout.
Yeah, it is really good show. I mean, your little plug there as well at the Doctor Who pod on Twitter, where me and Dan Griffin talk about Doctor Who, classic Who, and new Who, etc., etc., etc. The what we have found is certain things get better with a rewatch, and some of the I wasn't a massive Matt Smith fan, and I wasn't, and Peter Capaldi I thought was quite good, but Smith was better on a rewatch for me doing the podcast, and Capaldi's episode, I ranked it really highly in our watchbacks because, again, on the watch back, it was much better than I remembered. So maybe it is worth checking it out. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I am. I think I've got into a few episodes of Capaldi, so I am trying to catch up. Because a few mates of mine have said, "Oh, this, and this," and I'm like, "Okay, I need to give it a watch." But I felt like it was like a natural stopping point at the time. So
yeah, fair enough, mate. Fair enough.
I need a bit of a break from it, I guess.
Yeah, fair enough. Dan Griffin there in the chat as well, saying 60th anniversary next year, and I've seen possible spoilers of a comeback even bigger than the one that's been announced. Oh, spill the beans, Dan. Spill the beans. Let's hear the gossip, mate. Let's hear the gossip.
Do it.
Sharon here saying, Sai said the same about Matt Smith. I liked him instantly, but Sai took a minute. Yep, very, very true. Yeah. Morty here saying, Bernard Cribbins as the comeback. I don't think so. And Dan Griffin has been watching some Patrick Triton tonight, which is brilliant. Yeah, great stuff. I'm a big fan of Triton. And we have my good lady again. If my button here will work, there we are. Matt Smith is amazing in the film Morbius.
Not seen that one yet.
The wife went to the cinema to see it twice. She said it was that good.
Oh, okay. So it's that good.
But also, Jared Leto's in it. But she says that's not the reason why it was good. It was she'll go and watch it because Jared Leto's in it. But it was also a very good film. She enjoyed it from that aspect.
Okay.
He said he stopped watching when Matt Smith joined, but watched them a couple of years later and liked them too. Matt Willis here saying Pertwee is greater than every other Doctor. Well, that's always open for debate, and here is not the place for that debate. Wilf is back from Dan Griffin, and Connor McCabe here saying, I like the new Who reboot, the first season that was started in 2005. Can't remember who played the Doctor in that season. Christopher Eccleston, my friend. Christopher Eccleston.
Yeah.
Yes, there we go. Back to Twitter then. Paul Tolley again here at Rain Counter on Twitter. Some other comebacks that inspire me, he says. We have Tyson Fury. Now, I like a bit of boxing, but obviously he had his issues, didn't he, with drugs and drink and all sorts, so fair play, yeah? I'm going to butcher this name here, BenNny. You're going to have to help me out with this, okay? John Frusciante of the Red Hot Chili Peppers after a near-fatal heroin addiction. Have I pronounced that correctly?
Pass. I'd have to Google it, to be honest. Hang on. You carry on. I'll look at
it. Okay. I know who the Chili Peppers are, and I know who this guy is, but how to pronounce his name, I'm not sure. I think I've done it right there. Manic Street Preachers come back with Design for Life after best friend Richie Edwards' disappearance. Yeah, that is a great record and a great album. Yeah, and Manchester United versus Bayern Munich. That's what we're going to come to very, very soon, I believe. And Tolly also continues. The last one is, despite being something of a Liverpool fan, massively back at that time, Istanbul is obvious, but everything about 1999 was special. How late it was, that it was for the treble, that it was the two subs that scored. It's never over. Yeah, and the commentary, I think, really makes that moment as well. And Solskjaer has won it and so on, but it wasn't the first time that happened that season. There were so many games where United were one down going into stoppage time. Liverpool in the FA Cup, I believe, third round or fourth round, and we were 1-0 down going into stoppage time, and we beat them 2-1. It happened over and over and over again that year. It was the season of crazy, incredible comebacks. So
that's where Fergie time come from, to be honest.
Yeah, well, that came from a bit earlier, but it really hammered home the fact that it happened, So, Morty, I know you're in the chat there, my friend, at Morty Junior 5 on Twitter. He says, Mike in Better Call Saul. Well, he put Mike in BCS, and I had to ask, what is that? I didn't know what that was. But Mike in Better Call Saul is a character comeback, and it made him even better. He's one of the stars of that series. PCO had one of the greatest wrestling comebacks of all time, in my humble opinion. PCO, yes. Do you know PCO, BenNy?
Doesn't sound familiar.
He was one half of the Quebecers tag team.
Oh, okay. I know who they are. Okay, yes. Yes,
And he
yeah.
came back, and I think he won the Ring of Honor title and so on in his 50s and so on. So pretty
All right, okay.
spectacular achievement.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah. Yeah, so there we go. Dan Griffin again here at Dan Griffin 21. In terms of wrestling related comeback, Jake the Snake overcoming his demons to appear on an old school Raw and be inducted into the Hall of Fame was incredible. As was Scott Hall doing the same. Yeah, very much so. Any story of people overcoming stuff like that is great, isn't it?
The Scott Hall stuff, I remember seeing my mate of mine sent me the footage of him at that indie show where he's just like drunk, high, whatever's going on with that dude in that particular moment was bad. And seeing him a few years later, like ballooned up and everything. So that, DDP has done freaking wonders for a lot of wrestlers, to be fair. But obviously they got to do it for themselves ultimately. But yeah, that was quite once he had come over that, and I love his Hall of Fame speech, to the way he ended it as well, Scott Hall. I can't remember I'm not going to try and quote the line, so I'll mess it up. But it's classic.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, for me, because earlier on, but Triple H has come back in 2001 in that January was. I know it's probably not the thing, but like the fact that the dude left a full-on heel, and I've said this before, like a full-on heel to come back to the reception that he came back to in MSG was just amazing.
In the Garden, 2002 that would have been, wouldn't it? Because he won the Rumble.
Yes, because the invasion angle was gone and he was back.
He missed the whole thing, didn't he?
He did. Yeah, that's right. So 2002. I apologize. So yeah, that was cool for me to see. Because when I started watching wrestling, 2000, Triple H was the freaking guy and the biggest heel in the company at the time.
Yep.
So to have that switch happen without actually being in front of the crowd, you could be gone for 8 months. That says a lot, I think, to be fair.
Yeah. And then sadly, he won the Rumble, and that was great. And then the whole program going into WrestleMania 18 was more about his wife and their bloody dog than Jericho and the world title. So
it's a shame because Jericho deserved the world title, but it just the whole, if he had to lose it at Mania, fine. But like it just felt. But then I think following Hogan and Rock was kind of like lackluster, wasn't it? But it's a shame really because the match is not that bad actually, to be fair. But it's
Eddie Guerrero, another great shout for a comeback. Scottish Danny says, very true.
Yeah.
Matt Willis here piping up with a pretty cheesy, but I like it, entrance theme. We are the Mountie from the Mountie and the Quebecers and so on. I like the Rougeau brothers entrance theme if we're going down that road. That's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Scottish Danny again here saying he hated that feud. Y2J was an afterthought. It did feel like that, and it was a shame. It
ruined his title run. First undisputed champion.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody saw it coming. To be fair, I don't think many saw it coming. When I watched that Vengeance, I'd have picked Austin or Rock to win that outside shot angle. But Jericho wasn't even on my, even though I think because he was a bad guy at the time, so I didn't care. But like, it would have been cool to. And the fact that it happened, you're like, holy crap, So
yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah.
At Dan Griffin 21 still on Twitter. Also, British wrestling making its way back to primetime Saturday telly after 28 years with World of Sport in 2018 was pretty damn amazing. Shame it only lasted one season, despite doing decent numbers, but ITV preferred AEW for free over paying for more World of Sport.
Yeah.
Bloody Tony Khan. Yeah, and Vince really, really didn't want it to happen either, did he? So there we go.
I mean, I understand the appeal of World of Sport. It had its time. It was like you talk to, my my mum's parents and stuff, like they used to love it. They used to watch it every Saturday and all that kind of stuff. But then it moved around. What I took away from World of Sport when it did come back, I love the fact that JR was involved in it. That made me watch it.
Oh yeah, totally. That was awesome.
And there was a couple of like indie wrestlers as well, like Yestin Reese was there and backstage. I remember him being there. And there's a few guys that we know from Pro Evo who were somehow involved with it,
Mm-hmm.
which was cool. But it felt when it was being filmed, it's like the person filming it never watched wrestling before. It felt more like an episode of, I don't know, Gladiators or Ninja Warrior or something, rather than actually a wrestling event. That's my problem with it. So, but yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting as well. I mean, very quickly, we'll come back to that point in a second there, BenNy. We've got Matt Willis in the chat here saying Jericho was a late change to be champion. Angle was always the guy who was meant to win it until 5 days before Vengeance. Now, I heard Jericho on his podcast say that he didn't find out he was winning it until the day. So, maybe that we've got our
Didn't know
wires
that.
crossed a touch there. We have Sharon here, my good lady, saying we got to see Ara Yestin on TV. Now she's referring to one of those Pro Evo wrestlers that you just mentioned there, BenNny, sorry. Yestin Reese, who
What show you on?
I mean, I do it all the time. I do it all the time. The fact that I've not called you Mags yet amazes me.
He would take
yes,
that as an insult, mate, to be fair, so don't do that.
Yestin is an absolutely fantastic bloke. He's wrestled all over the place, and Evolution Wrestling is the local company for me and Sharon. He's made a big effort at my little girl, and when she got upset at a show, he gave her a T-shirt to help her out, and he recorded a message to her, a video message wishing her happy birthday, and she was very little. And my daughter wouldn't be into wrestling, I don't think, if it wasn't for Yestin Reese. So I got a lot of respect for this guy. I spoke to him a long time ago now on my original podcast, the SJP podcast, and we discussed World of Sport and some of the issues with it. Now, I had him on twice, I believe. I can't remember which show it's on, but it's really interesting when he talks about some of the aspects of what happened with World of Sport and some of the problems and the stuff that they filmed didn't necessarily make it to television. And there are certain bits left out of certain shows, which then meant scenes later on didn't make sense. And certain wrestlers were made to look a certain way because certain things weren't put to television and so on. You have to go back and listen to it yourselves. It was really, really interesting chat. So, yeah, it was great stuff. It was great stuff. Back to Twitter, we have. Oh, I love this bloke to bits. And Handy T1TF on Twitter at Handy T1TF. He honestly, I say it every week, but supported my stuff ever since literally episode 1 of whatever it was way back when. Top bloke, always messages into the show. Hugely appreciated it. Hope you're doing well, Handy. Hope you are well. He says he's going to go with Elvis's 1968 comeback special. His career was considered over until this special was breathed new life into him again and captured a whole new generation. And that's the famous one, isn't it? With the white suit, I think, isn't it?
I wouldn't have a clue, to be honest with you.
I'm pretty certain that. I mean, it was when he wore like the whole white jumpsuit and it sort of reinvigorated his career and so on. Yeah. So yeah, great stuff.
Mate, it's Elvis, man. I mean, I a little less conversation. You know, Elvis versus JXL was my jam at one point, but that's as far as my Elvis knowledge goes, mate. To be fair, so
you're exposing yourself as being incredibly uncultured, now, my friend.
I'm exposing myself being younger than you, side. That's why I'm exposing myself,
mate. It's not about age, is it? I mean, Elvis was dead before I was born, so that's not relevant.
Is he though? Is he though? Conspiracy.
Is he that? Yeah, he's flipping burgers in Merthyr Tydfil or something.
Why Merthyr Tydfil?
It was the first place that came to my head, to be fair.
Fair enough.
I don't know why it was the first. Why did Merthyr Tydfil come to my head first? I don't know. That's strange. MGB Graham on Twitter at MJB Graham. He says Liverpool versus Barcelona Champions League semi-finals. First leg was on my birthday. Terrible result. The belated present in the second leg more than made up for it. And he's got in speech marks here. Corner taken quickly. Origi. I don't particularly remember that game. I don't think. But yeah, okay.
If you wanted to talk football, mate, you've got the wrong guy on your show right now.
Well, no, normally we very much, even though Radio Techers is a football-based channel, we very much steer clear of any football talk here. Yeah. So, for example, if there is a game on a Monday night, we don't really discuss it because people come here to get away from that sort of thing sometimes.
Yeah,
I know, I know my wife and kids, if they're ever in the chat, they don't want to be engaged in everyone talking about freaking whatever football matches on or whatever. So, yeah. James at 80s and 90s wrestling. He says here, and this is gold. He had a goldfish. That pun was not intentional. That sounds terrible now. That was not my intent at all. But yeah, he had a goldfish when I was a kid. And one morning before school, it was floating on the top on its side, presumed dead. I pushed it under the water for a few minutes and it came back to life. Absolute scenes, he says. Cracking comeback, to be fair.
Fair. I mean, comeback of the night. Was that like fish CPR going on there? What was that about?
Yeah, like doing a little chest impression, like 1, 2, 3.
I don't want to see mouth to mouth to a goldfish. I don't think, to be honest.
Have to use a really little, like those straws you get in the Capri Sun. You know, they're really sort of skinny straws.
Don't even talk to me about a Capri Sun, mate. Trying to get into a Capri Sun for my little girl at the moment with them bloody straw. I feel like just cutting the top off and just do it like that, because them straws do not go through that. And if they do go through, it splits, and I've got freaking Capri Sun all over me. So don't.
Or you go through both sides.
Or I've never done that actually. So that'd be like a.
I have, yes, I have.
Just freeze them and make them into bloody, ice pops.
Oh yeah, I love a frozen drink in the summer, mate. You know, bit of squash or fruit juice in the freezer overnight when you go into work. Lovely, lovely stuff. At Total Stevo on Twitter, and he's sent us a few here, Benny. So I'll run through so fairly quickly. He says, "Funny you mention this. My Chemical Romance, who I have no direct issue with, have a lot of good songs. They released a new one after 9 years, and it's awful." He has said that I've not heard the new My Chemical Romance, but wasn't a big fan first time round anyway, so not really my cup of tea.
I like a couple of their tracks. I can't think of any off the top of my head, to be honest. They're on my phone, so I've got to that point now in my life where I don't even buy CDs anymore, to be fair. So it's just I like a song, I go boom, 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 and I just have random songs come up every now and again. So,
fair enough, mate. Fair enough. Yeah. Steve-O continues, "I've said for years that American Pie, the reunion, made 10 years after the original, is probably the best of the four, and any comedy that does a comeback as a one-off to finish a show should take inspiration from that. A simple story, bringing back all the original cast, even if a bit part, worked perfectly within the context of the film series. Too many sitcoms, films, and etc. try and recreate what worked, rather than just sticking with the original format."
Yeah.
Frankie Burnside, Don Beach returning to the bill were some of the best storylines going on in the early 2000s. Only back for a few episodes, but what an impact they had. Again, I've not watched a great deal of the bill, but Steve-O is like a fanatic on the bill, Benny. You know, it's like his favorite show. It's like you and me on Quantum Leap. He adores the bill, you know.
Is this the Steve-O that mocked me for liking Linkin Park, by the way?
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah. That's sweet, all right.
Hey, if we all like the same thing, the world would be a very boring place.
Oh yeah, but my comeback was pretty good, to be fair, on Twitter. So
Steve-O says here, in Peep Show, the brilliant Big Mad Andy, played by Liam Noble, came back in season 8. Excellent cameo, and one of the funniest scenes in series 8 being beaten up by Jez. And in fact, going back to the bill, they regularly brought back characters, and every time was perfect. Not necessarily a comeback, but AJ Styles, when joining WWE, was, in his opinion, cementing him as one of the greats. Yes, in TNA and New Japan, he was 10 out of 10, but not really known to the masses. Comes to WWE, every wrestling fan knows who you are. It's a fair shite.
I mean, I watched a bit of TNA when it first started, and a little bit when I had the 6 sides. When Hogan came in and gave it the 4 sides, I gave up with it, because you're just taking your, when you're flicking through the TV and you see that 6-sided ring, you're like, what's this?
Yeah.
But AJ, I knew who AJ. There's certain wrestlers, like, even now with AEW, which I don't watch, like people like the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega and all that kind of stuff, I know who they are because they filter through. You kind of, other wrestling fans go, these are good. So I've watched certain matches and stuff like that. AJ Styles coming at number 3 in 2016. I did a list on a website years ago of top moments. AJ Styles made like number 2 out of all the Royal Rumble moments, because it was a sign of things changing in WWE. And what a freaking debut, apart from the fact that the cameraman absolutely fluffed up the angle, and they, finally released it later on YouTube. But I did hear a rumor, but again, it's all rumors. So, that apparently they were worried about people not knowing who AJ Styles was. That's why they put number 3, which could have happened, I suppose. But the fact that it said "I am" then phenomenal, and the crowd react before he's even come out. One of my favorite moments, definitely. AJ Styles coming to WWE. So,
absolutely top bloke, AJ Styles. Fantastic wrestler, really, really good. Steve-O continues, in sport, Ericsson on loan at Brentford. Oh yeah, totally. Christian Ericsson on loan at Brentford. A top team needs to sign him now. What a passer of the ball. What vision. It's no good when it's Mbeumo and Tony in front of you. Put him in that Tottenham team again. They'd be challenging. Kane wouldn't need to drop so deep. Are you aware of Christian Ericsson, Benny?
Yeah, he's again. You say we're talking about AJ Styles a second ago. Certain footballers sort of filter through, don't they? So yeah,
had
Tottenham
the heart
player?
attack on the pitch, didn't he?
Oh no, was he a Tottenham player? Am I thinking the right person?
Yeah, that's right. No, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
he
He
was
was
a
a Tottenham
Tottenham
player.
player,
He
yeah,
had a
yeah.
heart attack on the pitch playing for Denmark. And basically, at the time, he was playing for an Italian club. But because of medical reasons, insurance, whatever it was, he couldn't carry on playing in Italy anymore. So he signed a short-term deal with Brentford, quite a small club in the Premier League. And he's tearing it up. He's looking fantastic. So,
Oh, okay. So yeah, at least I got the right the right club at least anyway. So
yeah, there you go. And Steve-O says, to finish, fittingly, CM Punk returning to the ring after all behind the scenes and hating the industry, trying and failing at UFC, to come back to the, in my opinion, he says, and excuse the pun, next big thing in AEW is a testament to him. By all accounts, unfortunately, he can't watch virtually. CM was just here. All his matches have been 5 stars, and as a person, him developing and helping younger talent is a testament to his character. Fair enough.
I've seen clips of him, like him and MJF, like going at each other a couple of months ago and stuff. I've enjoyed watching those few clips. I've not seen any of his matches in AEW. Do you know what? People say he failed in MMA. All right, he didn't win in the match I saw him in, but do you know what? He said he was going to go, and he did it. So yes, he didn't win, but I count that as I'm going to go there and do that. And everybody went, yeah, you ain't going to do that, and he did it. So I'll give him props for trying at least, which I think should be more the positive rather than negative on that one. But I need to watch some AEW and see some CM Punk. But is he as good?
Oh mate, it's fantastic, and he's working with people who he's working with talented people every week as well. It's really, really good stuff.
Yeah,
we've got a couple more to scan through before we talk a little bit more wrestling properly, but we'll jump into the chat quickly. We have Scottish Danny here saying, I love the Steve-O segments on chain wrestling. Yeah, Steve-O's got, I might have to make him his own jingle or something. Sharon has been naming a few. Oh my goodness, what's the name of the band? Completely escaped me. My Chemical Romance. What a brain fart that was. She's been naming a few Chemical Romance songs in the chat, trying to see what people can remember. Black Parade, she says here. I'm Not Okay is another one. And I don't mind both of those records. They're quite good. Steve-O versus BenNy equals money, apparently. So that'd be interesting, according to Scottish Danny.
I need to get in the gym before we even think about that, to be fair. To be honest, Jesus.
Yeah, Steve-O's put together, mind.
He is. Mate, I'm all mouth, mate. I'll crumble. I'll give him a hug when I see him. I'll be it.
That's it. Sharon there saying Teenagers. That is a tune. I like that one. That's good. And then Sharon continuing, flipping heck, I know more than I actually thought I did.
Yeah.
And we got a few more here. Scottish Danny agreeing with Sharon about the My Chemical Romance songs. And talking of AJ Styles' debut, Sharon got told about AJ literally minutes before we watched the pay-per-view. #wanker. Who told you that? I can't remember, Sharon. Who spilt the beans on that one? That wasn't me. I don't think that was me. I hope it wasn't me.
Are you a serial spoiler? Is that what's going on?
No. I'll make, because I wouldn't want it spoiled for me. So
yeah, that's how I look at it as well. That's why I try and stay away from like dirt sheets or whatever you want to call them these days off the internet. You hear I heard rumors about Edge about 6 months prior. He was getting in good shape apparently. I was like, okay, well, fair play to him. I didn't even enter my head that he was going to return, and when he did, it was awesome, as Sharon said earlier in the chat. So
yeah, without a doubt. Let's finish off our non-wrestling topic then, BenNy. We have here Connor at Connor Knows on Twitter. He says, entering the realm of basketball, he says, my favorite college team, Kansas, came back from 15 points down at halftime to win the national championships back in March, 75-69. It's the largest comeback ever in national championship history. Well, if it's the biggest comeback ever, I mean, I don't know a great deal about basketball myself, but if it's the biggest comeback ever, that is always going to be some achievement, mate, isn't it?
It's always good to see a team, whatever you support, or whatever. I mean, for me, if you want to talk comeback, this will polarize the room if there are any F1 fans or Hamilton fans. But seeing Max Verstappen, overtake Hamilton on the last freaking couple of corners last year in F1 to become world champion was, it has its there's a lot of debate about it, put it this way, but it was so cool to see. And if you are F1 fan, Drive to Survive series on Netflix depicts it so well. and you get to see like Christian Horner reacting and stuff, like, you know, the passion from, you know, whether it's football, you know, basketball, baseball, whatever, you know. If you're into it, you're into it. So anybody you support and they do a comeback like that in the last minute, like a 2-1 win, extra time in football, whatever, you're gonna remember it, aren't you? So, you know,
yeah,
it's good. It's good stuff.
Yeah, totally, mate, totally. Connor also says here, in terms of football, in the first ever CONCACAF Nations League, the United States went 2-0 down quickly. It took goals from Gio Reyna and Winston McKinney to level the score, and in the 89th minute, Christian Pulisic converted a penalty to make it 3-2 and seal the win. Well, that's exactly what you were saying, Benny, isn't it? Being 2 down and pulling it back, I suppose. So, yeah, exactly what you're on about. We've got some more here from Sharon. I asked her to name the person who gave the spoiler, and she says, I shan't name names. It is that oof of the unmentionable. I think I know who you're referring to. I won't name them either, but fuck them.
I'm sorry, all right. I didn't mean to.
No, it was And finally, Mr. Matt Willis. He says here, best comebacks. Liverpool against Milan. Liverpool against Dortmund. Liverpool against Barcelona. Are we noticing a theme here? Yes, we are. Shawn Michaels in 2002. Roman Reigns from leukemia. And one last one. The UK in Eurovision. A laughing stock for 24 years. Finally, a respectable position. Okay.
Oh, mate, that was so cool. I've only been watching Eurovision like a little bit on and off last couple of years. The other half loves it, so watch it with her. And I've never seen UK ever get any points. So the fact we got 4 points on the first one, I was like, oh, well, that'll do. I'm happy with that. And the fact that we came freaking second was insane. The only downside to Eurovision, as we all know, even if you don't watch it, it's very politically influenced, unfortunately. So, you know, but the song's good as well.
Yeah, the guy for Britain. I mean, I didn't even know it was on until Sharon told me. Like, but the guy for Britain, Sharon bought up his. I don't know if it was his TikTok or his Facebook
TikTok,
or something.
Yeah, because my missus did the same with me, mate. I didn't know he was,
and he was singing like Queen songs and
he's good,
Mariah Carey. My God, this guy can wail.
He's got range on him, to be fair, mate. So you know, he's got big things now. Second though, so close, but it was good. It was good. It was good to watch it. To be fair, it was good fun. A couple of beers in, mate, as well. You know, everything's good fun. To be fair.
Well, there you go. That is it for our non-wrestling topic this week. Thank you so much to absolutely everybody who messaged in, tweeted in, WhatsApped in, gave us your greatest comebacks of all time. BenNny, any that stand out to you, my friend?
I think I bet, you know, it's mainly wrestling, isn't it? To be fair, unfortunately, you know, I was CM Punk coming back to WWE, if not only for that Fox show, was quite cool. It led me to believe that maybe we'll see him in the ring one day. Okay, we did. Now he's in AEW. Didn't quite get there. I think most recently, Edge is obviously a freaking. My mate says it all the time when you talk about it. When Edge comes out through that smoke at Royal Rumble, and the passion in his eyes,
the music,
just everything is so freaking awesome. You know, John Cena coming back at the Garden when he was supposed to be out for like a year with the torn shoulder. You know, just there's so many cool comebacks, really. Jericho coming back, I think it was 2007. Correct me if I'm wrong, when he had the Y2J code thing coming up for a little bit, and he interrupted Orton. Fun little fact: what I found out, recently, last year, the waistcoat he was wearing was made from the shirt he debuted in. 1999.
Oh wow! I didn't know that.
So it was so cool, man. And then obviously, you know, just most of mine's wrestling comeback. I think it wasn't a win. I can't remember what year it was. This is the problem why I didn't bring it up, but somebody in the chat will probably remember. But it was Arsenal versus Newcastle, and Joey Barton was still playing for Newcastle. So that's how long ago it was.
Sorry, let me just stop you there, BenNny.
Okay, go on.
Sharon, do you know what game he's going to refer to now? Just out of curiosity. I bet you do. We got a bit of a story about this one. Carry on, BenNny.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe 2011, might be 2012. It may even be 2013. I don't know. It's somewhere within there. And I'm not even at the time. I was full into football to a point of watching the games. I don't know every player and all this stuff, but like, what was his name? It was basically, I think it was like 4-3, and then I remember it coming in on a cross. It came off the head of someone of the Arsenal Being told to shut up. I'm not arguing with Sharon, mate. I'm not arguing with the missus. All I remember is that. What the hell was his name? Chiotte?
Chiotte, something
Something
like
like that. It came out and he just smashed it.
Yeah.
From probably about 25 yards, and it went in. And I jumped out of my seat for him because there was a lot of story going on in that game, like Arsenal being dickheads and stuff. So Joey Barton as well. Joey Barton was not a good, as we well know, was not good. But
basically that game, Arsenal were 4-0 up.
That's it. Yes, that's
I think there was only half an hour left. I think they're still 4-0 up, well into the second half, and then Arsenal had a man sent off.
Yeah.
And I said to Sharon, I want to put money on Newcastle putting this back. I want to put money on Newcastle not losing this game at 4-0 down.
Yeah.
With like half an hour left or 25 minutes left.
Okay.
Sharon basically talked me out of it, thinking, I was like, no, I can just feel it. And Sharon was like, no.
Yeah.
So I went, in the end, trying to be sensible. And my wife was right. It was a silly gamble. It was a silly bet. Shouldn't, she's completely right. And
you said at halftime, by the way.
I said it at halftime, yeah. And then again when it was at 4-0 with half an hour, and then Arsenal had the man sent off and so on. And I didn't put the bet on, and then it happened, and basically I'd have been quids in, mate, because the odds that I found were huge.
I bet they were, I bet they were really good as well, to be fair.
But it's okay. I don't hold a grudge, my love.
I was watching it on Match of the Day, obviously later on, and I'm back in the house. I've just finished work about 10. I've got home about 10:30. I'm watching Match of the Day. It's about 11 o'clock at night, and I've jumped out of my freaking seat going, like that. And I'm not even, I'm a United fan, but I woke the house up, put it this way. So I got a bit of a bollock, to be fair, but loved it, man. It's still one of those games I remember definitely quite fondly. And like I said, I got sucked into the story of the game. Not necessarily being an Arsenal fan or a Newcastle fan. We all know what Joey Barton was like, but like to see this thing play, like what the hell are these Arsenal doing? Like, you're being a bit of dicks, to be fair, and then to see him come back in. Was it a draw after it was, wasn't it? It was 4
each. Yeah. It's drama. That's what it comes down to, mate.
Yeah, yes.
That's all it is. It's drama. It's sporting drama, and that's what I love. That's why I love wrestling. I love football. It's drama. It's stuff playing out in front of your eyes. I just love all that.
Yeah, I think that's why most of us like wrestling, to be fair.
Yeah. I got a couple. I mean, United were 3-0 down at Tottenham a while back, and apparently Alex Ferguson's whole team talk consisted of, "Come on, lads, it's only fucking Spurs." And we went out and scored 5 in the second half.
What was the year we won the treble and we were losing? Because I was young. I was like
99.
Yeah. My brother was crying like we were losing, and then they scored, and they scored again. So the tears were still there, but it was from sadness to freaking pure joy. That was a cool moment.
Amazing moments there, winning that game. Amazing. I mean, wrestling wise, obviously we spoke about Edge coming back at the Rumble, John Cena coming back at the Rumble, Cena coming back recently at the end of Money in the Bank. Was that with Reigns?
Yeah, because he just beat an Edge thanks to help from Seth Rollins. And I happened to be chatting to a mate on headset, and I was watching because he'd already seen it. And I was about to turn off. He goes, "Oh, hang on a minute." I went, "What?" And he goes, "Just hang on a minute." And seeing his music hit, I popped, mate. I was, "Oh my god," because it was a cool moment. Didn't say a word. The music in the background, walks up to Reigns and just, "You can't see me," and it was just, and to hear the crowd respond, I thought it was cool, man.
I'm one of the biggest sort of John Cena critics, I guess, but I appreciate how good he is for the business. I appreciate all that, but I popped like I went mad when it happened. It was so silly.
And then a few weeks later, we had Brock Lesnar come back.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I was thought we could do a thing for the next 6 months with every time Reigns beat somebody else would come back to try and take the title off him. But
we'll say hi to Cameron in the chat there. How you doing, mate? I hope you're well. Just joining us now. Motley Crue as well, mate. Motley Crue in 2005. I was a massive Motley Crue fan. They'd split up, doing nothing, and then they basically released a single and announced they were doing a world tour. And I went on the reunion world tour, and it's one of the most extravagant, over-the-top shows I have ever seen. The stage show was ridiculous, and it's now a DVD. Like you can get the concert on DVD and stuff, and it's worth it just for the beginning, where this weird midget dude opens a box to let Vince Neil, the lead singer, out, and then there's strippers falling from the ceiling, eating fire, and it honestly, the whole way through the show, I was just sat there like, what the hell am I watching? It is incredible. Yeah,
Did Big
Motley
Show fall
Crue
down
come
as well?
back. Sorry.
Did Big Show fall down as well?
Yeah, yeah, that's it. And then I woke up and it was all a dream.
This episode.
Oh dear. Okay, so I guess that does totally complete our non-wrestling topic, mate. I've had an absolute blast discussing that as always. It's always good fun, and the CWF are always awesome with their responses. But I guess we are, I suppose, a wrestling podcast, so we better talk a little bit of wrestling.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Boom.
Now then, the topic, the match that won the poll this week was my choice, and I'm over the moon about that because this is a match that I remember being amazing, but watching it back, it's better than even I remember.
This is why you invited me back, because mine lost. That's why you've invited me back, really.
Yeah, just to gloat.
Just to gloat. That was it. An hour and 10 minutes in, you want to now gloat.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. The match that won this week's poll was the WrestleMania 21 contest between Shawn Michaels and Kurt Angle, two of my all-time favorite wrestlers. I don't know if you've ever heard it, BenNny, but Mags, when I first spoke to Mags, it was on a show called Badlands, and the format was you would give your Mount Rushmore of wrestlers. So,
Okay.
you for, whatever of all time. And these two were on my Mount Rushmore of all time greatest wrestlers I've ever seen. I just think that now, if I sat down, the four may be different, but these two would still be on it, I think, because they were that good,
I think it's subjective as well, and obviously it's personal to you, your experiences with the wrestling business, isn't it? Who you would have in your top 5 or top 4 or whatever it may be. So you could ask me and yourself, probably you might have several the same, but you might switch one out every now and again.
Yeah, it was the fourth place one that I had real trouble deciding upon. The other three were kind of lock-ins. The fourth place kind of interchanges. But yeah, I know what you mean. It depends on the day as well, doesn't it? I guess. This comes from the Staples Center in LA, and it was the year where apparently WrestleMania goes Hollywood. So we had all of the famous, and still to this day, brilliant promo packages of the WWE wrestlers.
Yeah,
in famous movie scenes.
Some great ones in there, man. Pulp Fiction, Booker T and Eddie, which is hilarious.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, one that made me pop first time I ever watched it was Triple H's Braveheart speech. Then it cuts to where the soldiers should be. It's just spears and Ric Flair with a donkey for some strange reason. It made me pop.
And he starts shouting at the donkey and wooing. And the donkey
wooing the donkey. Like, how do you do, man? I think Taxi Driver's up there. Obviously, you're talking to me.
Yeah, they all had a go at that, didn't they? I think a lot of them had a go at that.
Yeah, Big Show ripping his jacket, and Snitsky, if he did anything right, this was probably when he's about to. Are you talking? A thing falls behind him. He goes, "That wasn't my fault." And it's just like, not that he did anything other. I don't think he did anything overly amazing in WWE in his run, but the thing doing that scene was hilarious. And obviously, I don't know what else. I'm trying to think. Oh, the Christy Hemme and Kurt Angle with the wig on.
Yeah,
was quite funny.
What was that film?
When Harry Met Sally.
That's right. Yeah.
And obviously Eugene, Forrest Gump, punching a nurse in the face, which was a bit uncalled for, but
Yeah. I mean, on the sorry, go on.
I was just going to say it ended with William Regal saying "Run, Eugene, run," which was weird and cheesy, but they were quite entertaining, to be fair. And not all of them. John Cena and JBL's was a lot more serious because I think it was A Few Good Men.
That's right. Yeah.
I want the truth. You can't handle the truth. Theirs was a lot more serious and felt more of a promo of their match coming up, rather than the rest seemed a bit just silly and we're in Hollywood. Let's have fun with it. So
I think there is a collect that they've all been collected on YouTube and put together, so you can watch them all in one hit, and they are gold. They're some of the best promo clips for.
Yeah, I've just realised I forgot on the what's that film called with Sharon Stone in it?
Oh, Stacy Keibler and Basic Instinct.
Stephen Richards in Christian.
yeah. Steve
Yeah.
Richards.
How about masochistic activity? What the?
Yeah.
That was quite funny. That was more cringy than funny. But when
Yeah.
Christian leans forward out of the dark and says, "How about say?" I can't even say without laughing. It was funny, man. So it was good fun.
It's good.
Most of them. So.
You mentioned Eugene there, and a moment that happened on this this WrestleMania card is I watched it back today. This moment, because I remember it being fantastic and being younger and like loving this moment.
Agreed.
Regardless of how cheesy and semi-predictable it is, Eugene comes to the ring. Who everyone, if you're unaware of the Eugene character, go and check it out. The guy could wrestle. Nick Dinsmore was his real name. He can really work, but he was basically playing a mentally handicapped person or somebody who was mentally challenged, shall we say. And now looking back in 2022, it's not in the best light or the best taste, really.
I always looked at his character to a degree like the pureness of like people, like trust everybody, thinks nobody will hurt him, and unfortunately, obviously, with his storyline, it did happen to him. But I can see why people would get offended by it. I agree with that, but like the guy could wrestle, as you said. So and for a short time, it was a good little underdog gimmick, really, I suppose.
Yeah. And you had Eugene in the ring, and he was basically attacked by Muhammad Hassan, who was another dodgy gimmick around the time of terrorist attacks all over the place, and basically, really, really in bad taste. And Hulk Hogan, who went into the Hall of Fame the night before, his music hits, he comes out to save the day. Now, I remember that being an awesome, awesome moment. Hogan's music hit, that crowd popping. Oh, it was superb. It reminded me of being a young little kid and thinking Hogan was great and all that. Watching it back now in 2022, you've got a guy pretending to be mentally challenged. You've got an American guy who I think was actually of part Italian descent, pretending to be of Arabian descent and effectively being a terrorist. If you've not seen the scene on SmackDown where his terrorist companions attack the Undertaker, go check it out. I'm not going to go into it now, but it's incredibly bad taste. And then you've got a guy who is just basically a big orange racist. And so in 2022, that whole moment that meant a lot to me as younger person. Now it's like, oh dear me.
I watched it back as well, funny enough, because that's when this WrestleMania comes into my head. I remember certain things, and that's one of them. But it wasn't as big a moment, and I'm like yourself. I think we're mirroring the way you were feeling about it as the way I was feeling about it watching it back. So if anything, watching it back has probably ruined it for me, the memory of it anyway.
Yeah.
Because I mean, when I think of this WrestleMania, I think of the first Money in the Bank. I think of John Cena winning his first title, which was a bit lackluster, actually. Now that I'm watching it back, Taker versus Orton, I love that match, and Batista and Triple H's story that have been told over the last 2-3 years of evolution and disbanding and all that stuff. So for that pay-per-view was more
thumbs
about
up, thumbs down moment.
Yeah, so for me, watching it at the time, it was more about Batista and what's he going to do, And for some reason, Kurt Angle in HBK, I know it's on the card. It's for some reason, I was probably about 20. I don't know. I need to work. I'm not going to work maths out now. It's too late. But like, I think about 20. I don't know. And for some reason, I liked it, but it isn't one of those because it's not a moment. But actually, watching it today, as we'll get into, it's changed my opinion on it, mate. To be fair, so
see, for me, I'm the other way. I think of WrestleMania 21. I think of this match because, as I said, these are two of my all-time favorites. And to me, this was a dream match. Michaels spent a long time retired. Angle, he's off to TNA and whatnot, and back and forth, and injuries and so on. But seeing these two here squaring off at WrestleMania, this is a dream match for the wrestling fan I was back then, and even now. To be fair, it's two of my all-time faves. The storyline going into this was a brilliant piece of storytelling as well. You basically had Kurt Angle on a quest to try and win the World Championship. He gets eliminated from the Royal Rumble by Shawn Michaels, which is effectively going to cost him his opportunity at the world title. He then comes back and eliminates Michaels and gives him a beatdown at the Rumble. That starts off the feud. And then it kind of escalates to basically a case of who is the best ever.
Yeah.
And you've got Angle saying about he won a Olympic gold medal in 1996 with a broken frickin' neck, as we all know.
Yep.
But all he could hear about in 96 was this guy, Shawn Michaels, abseiling down from the ceiling and putting on a spectacular at WrestleMania 12. And he calls it a clinic. You go back and watch that match. It's not quite a clinic. It's all right.
No.
But it's not. Yeah.
It was a very highly talked about match, though.
Yes.
Yes. I mean, I didn't watch it when it happened, but I watched it years later, and I was enjoying it for an hour. Then the end comes, and you're like, "Oh, you have to start again because we can't have a draw." Well, you've set the wrong match up, then, haven't you?
Yeah, exactly.
So, anyway,
we get what I thought was just, again, fantastic storytelling. Kurt Angle saying it took Shawn Michaels years to get to the stage he's at now, or the stage he was at before his injury. I'm going to do what he did in a couple of weeks. So he has a ladder match that was quite comical. Go and find it on an episode of SmackDown. It's brilliant. Wins that. Obviously, taking off of the ladder match at WrestleMania 10 with Shawn Michaels and the late Scott Hall. He then wrestles Marty Jannetty, Shawn Michaels' old tag partner, on an episode of SmackDown. And to be fair, I mean, Marty Jannetty is never held up in a good light on this show for various reasons. Basically, the guy's a prick, let's be honest. But and again, various reasons, but I'm not going to go into them right now. But Jannetty held his own there, and that ends. Obviously, a lot of it was Kurt, I expect, but that ended up being a good contest too. And then we get the moment that everyone kind of remembers: Angle saying that he's shown in ring he's better than Shawn, but now he wants to show that he's a better entertainer than Shawn. He comes to the ring to Shawn Michaels' music, dressed in Shawn Michaels' gear, with sensational Sherry in tow, Shawn's first manager, when he and Marty Jannetty parted ways back in, would have been late 91, very, very early 92, wouldn't it? And he sings his own version of Shawn Michaels' entrance theme.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
And it's just, oh my goodness, absolute gold. And if you ever get to see it, it's brilliant. We got Scottish Danny in the chat there saying, just a sexy Kurt, and Cameron Griffin responding, "You'll make your ankle hurt." Oh, it's just so good. It's the build was absolutely superb. It was WWE storytelling when it's done well. They are bloody brilliant at it, BenNny, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, looking back at it now, after it got past the Rumble bit, it was great, but like the tenuous link of. We're all about tenuous links on Chain Wrestling, but it's like you eliminated me from the Rumble. Oh, so I'm going to come out and eliminate you. All right, but if everybody did that, there'd be nobody left. So but then obviously it leads into the greatest ever and all that kind of stuff. So it got better, But I remember seeing that and like, really, this is how you're going to start the feud. Maybe it could have been done differently. Of course it could, but you're building to WrestleMania. So, but it was as you said, as you've outlined it, it got better, and trying to one up the showstopper was really good, to be fair. Some of it very cringy, but it worked. So
yeah, that's right. It's very much being built up as being, even though it's halfway through the event, it's being built up as a big match. It has a big match feel to it, and that's helped, I think, by the Fink and Jim Ross on commentary, Howard Finkel on ring announcing duties, sort of giving out people's, I suppose, accolades. Shawn Michaels has won X amount of world titles, and he's a European champion. He was this, he was that. Kurt Angle's won this medal, and he's won this, and he's done all that sort of stuff. Absolutely fantastic. Really, really great hype right to the last moment. Your good buddy there, NJB, saying, "I got the moves that make them all tap out."
Carrying on from
so good. I'm gonna try. If you're listening on the audio version, I'll try and cut a little bit in there somewhere.
That'd be cool, man. Yeah, that'd be cool.
And basically, then the match starts with them two having a square off, very similar to how they appear behind our faces here today, BenNy. And you're waiting for them to tie up, but Shawn just slaps him.
Yeah,
slaps him straight in the mush.
Slaps him right in the mush, and you're like, "Whoa!" Something that surprised me in this match, actually, the crowd, because I thought Michaels was the favorite, and it seemed like it was to begin with. But as the match was going on, it seemed to shift a little bit of who was. But then even after that, after a while, towards the end, I think they're both being cheered for the stuff that they're doing. Really, so but yeah, the slap is I wasn't expecting the slap, to be honest. Even I watching it back earlier before we started, I was like, "Oh, all right."
Yeah, I wasn't
I
expecting
remember
it
it
either.
differently, so you know.
Yeah, you're right about the crowd as well. I think I'll be honest, considering how well the build-up was put together for this match, and the fact it's WrestleMania, and the fact that just before this match they'd had the ladies contest, which is basically back in the day was viewed as being a piss break. So this is being given an opportunity for people to have a break before these guys come to the ring.
Yeah,
The crowd are quite quiet early on, I
I
find.
feel like they're kind of like sitting on their hands a bit. I think to begin with, but this is the way they did this match was really good because they've told a story from like you hear about them talking about making a story in the ring. I feel like you don't see it that much anymore, to be honest.
No.
Even down to the basics of just like working the arm. Let's work this arm so later on when he tries to do something, it comes back and bites him in the ass because I've been stretching it and pulling it and twisting it. And now when you try to lift me up, you can't because I've weakened your shoulder or something, Just something that's basic. But like these guys told a freaking great story, I
Yeah,
think.
100%. And it starts with very much a wrestling sort of standpoint, doesn't it? We get the slap from Shawn, but then we end up with they both hit the deck and they're trying to grapple for position, and we then get Shawn Michaels basically getting a side headlock on Kurt Angle, and that side
Yeah.
headlock goes on for a long time, which normally could be potentially very boring, but it's not because these guys are so good. Kurt slips out at one point. Michaels gets it back. Kurt tries to suplex his way out of it.
Michaels doesn't
But
let go. Yeah.
yeah, that was brilliant, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And it's actual wrestling, which is wonderful to see. Wonderful to see. And both guys also, all the way through this match, they're trying to win the match. It's not just a fight. It's not just a spot fest. They're trying to.
It feels like an actual scrap in terms of
Yes.
wrestling, rather than. And I was, they're in the corner. The referee's trying to break them apart. Just like I miss stuff like this, and I was thinking about it while I was watching it. Headlock, and like you said, this goes on for a while. To be fair, then there's a suplex and all that kind of stuff. But people saying, "Oh, they did a rest hold." When did it? I know it's a rest hold, but like, when did it become a negative? Because I'm squeezing your head to try and drain the energy from you. That's what they're doing. That's the story they're trying to tell. When did a rest move become a negative? I don't know when this happened. But like, you listen to podcasts and read reviews, and they did a rest move. Like, well, they need to breathe at some points, but they're also trying to tell you a story of like, I'm keeping him down to drain him to force him to get back up on his feet and expel his energy or her energy. So I just don't like the fact that it's become a negative saying a rest move.
That's a really, really good point. Really good point. I think a lot of I don't want to be critical or seem like I'm digging these guys out, but the Young Bucks, a lot of the stuff the Bucks do is spot after spot after spot, and it's acrobatic and it's incredible to watch. It's entertaining. Maybe not to everyone. It's not to everyone's taste, but I enjoy it. But they go too far the other way. So it's kind of
there's a balance. I'm not saying I know everything because I don't, but like, there's definitely a balance between. But like I said, it's just why. I mean, Ricochet, I like the guy; he's amazing. But like again, a guy that can do all this stuff. Sometimes I feel like you just need to slow down a bit and make an arm drag mean something, or a headlock mean something. A DDT. We've had conversations before, but a DDT. It used to be used for my money for either a finish with Jake the Snake, but like a move that you did for desperation to create space between you and your opponent because you've taken the brunt of it. So you hit a DDT, either go for a pin or you roll away to try and catch your breath to try and get back in the match. So yeah, I could rant about that for another hour, mate. So let's move on before I do.
Obviously, I'm a touch older than you. To me, the DDT was a finish. Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
To me, the DDT was always a finish. Jake the Snake, Arn Anderson, that was it. They hit that DDT, boom, game over.
But why couldn't you do a DDT every now and again, even though it's not your finish, and win a match off it? And people go, "Holy crap!" And the next time they see it, they might win. The way RVD used to take a DDT back in the day, it was almost like a bloody power driver in some cases.
Again, we touched upon it last week a little bit, I think, didn't we? It's about if you've got a move that's over, then you've won half the battle. You
Yeah.
know, you mentioned their arm drags. Ricky Steamboat in the 80s. Everyone now goes, oh, that's a deep Ricky Steamboat-esque arm drag, because Steamboat had the best arm drags. When
Yeah.
Steamboat would hit an arm drag back in the day, he'd hit one and then put on an arm bar, and the crowd would pop because it meant
Yeah.
something. Now
Yeah.
it's just, oh, we need to move on because we're starting to sound like old
Also
men
a
shouting at
different-
clouds.
I mean, that leads in nicely to this match because we have arm bars and stuff going on in this match, and then like
Yeah.
reversal after reversal, and the crowd are popping for it. You know, Michaels goes for like a super kick, Angle catches him into a ankle lock at some point, and you know,
Early
then
on, yes, there's an early ankle lock, isn't
so,
it? And the crowd
yeah.
go mad.
Yeah, exactly. So for it, I mean, a Ronda Rousey locking that armbar in, you know, she's a bit more thingy about it, but like when she locks it on, people go mental for it. So
Mhm.
you can see transitions in wrestling or MMA. You see it in MMA all the time. You see a transition and people go mental because they know what it means and they know they've got that guy down or girl down or whatever, you know. So
Yeah,
it's a lost art, to be fair.
yeah,
I think.
I agree. I agree. Eventually, we end up on the outside and we get the table set up. I suppose we're
Yeah.
preparing the table, but then nothing happens with it just yet because Kurt Angle gives Shawn Michaels the angle slam into the ring post.
Oh, I felt that.
I don't remember that happening.
No, I
So
didn't.
that
either,
surprised
to be
me when I
fair.
saw it,
Yeah.
and I don't think I've seen it since.
That thud when he hits it.
Mm.
It's a leg, I think, isn't it? Or is sort of like,
Yeah.
you know, but
They're selling it as being his back, obviously, because Shawn Michaels has history of back issues. But yeah,
of course,
the
yeah.
replay shows his leg, doesn't it?
Yes, yeah. But you watch the yeah. But then obviously nowadays they have those LED lights around, all those LED things now. So when you know, it still hurts. I'm not saying it doesn't, but ask Cesaro, he lost some teeth. But like the fact that you know, these were metal posts, you kind of cringed at it anyway. So it told the story for you in your own head, you know. So
yeah, definitely. Angle then he's working the back, isn't he? He's driving his knee into the back, his shoulder into Shawn Michaels' back, and he hits some beautiful belly to belly overhead suplexes that just are so well timed, absolutely superb. And that's a running theme for me with Kurt Angle, especially in this time and when he goes to TNA and so on. Pretty much everything he does looks perfect. He hits a clothesline, it looks spot on. He hits a suplex, it looks immaculate.
yeah,
He does a moonsault later on, and his moonsault is perfectly straight. It's like he's floating through the air. Everything he does is just so right.
yeah. I don't see anything in this match in terms of the wrestlers. Like I don't, unless I'd have to really go back and really analyze every freaking like frame. But I don't think there's any, for my money, nothing seemed out of place. Put it this way.
No.
So the only thing I worry about with Kurt Angle doing a moonsault is I always see Hardcore Holly when he puts his arm up, and this is early on in Angle's career, but he slammed into Hardcore Holly's forearm, and it broke it. Whenever I see Angle do a moonsault, I'm a bit like, not because it was necessarily his fault, or maybe he was too high or whatever. I don't know whose fault that was. I'm assuming it was Angle's, but yeah, I always cringe a little bit when he does one, not because he can't do them, but it always takes me back to,
yeah, I get you.
You know, it's like Eddie Guerrero when he used to do a frog splash. I used to cringe a bit because when he first came over, he popped his elbow. If you remember that, it was so there's certain moves I go,
yeah,
oh, we landed it, we're okay. So you know,
no, I understand. Yeah. We get some more just brilliant spots. I mean, this is going to be a reoccurring theme as we run through these last few minutes of this match. I'm going to keep saying this is brilliant because it is bloody brilliant.
Yeah. No,
Michaels goes for his excellent top rope elbow, but actually misses it. You didn't see him miss it very often.
Yeah.
Angle goes for his angle slam, but that's countered into an arm drag. Angle tries to suplex Shawn off the apron, a German suplex off the apron, and Shawn hits a low blow. Maybe that was where some of the boos started coming in, BenNny.
Yeah, possibly because I've forgotten about that actually. To be fair, because he's got the referee's attention, hasn't he? To be fair, so he does the Ric Flair low blow type thing. One thing very quickly, the referee seemed rather close to these two men for a while, and every time there was a chop, he kept going. Like did I miss something? Because
I noticed it on one spell. You're right, but I think what I noticed was he's saying it was open handed, Because if you look,
okay.
because Shawn has this thing of he'll throw a chop and then he'll throw a punch, and then he'll throw a chop and then he'll throw a punch. But every
Yeah.
time he throws the punch, the referee is saying you've got to have your hand open. Because
Okay.
in pro wrestling,
It
believe it
makes
or
sense.
not,
Yeah.
you know, youngsters listening, in pro wrestling, a clenched fist is illegal.
Yep.
You know, using the point of the boot is also illegal. But
Yep.
never mind. Well, that's
Anyway.
an argument again for another day. Shawn eventually comes off the middle rope to try and go through the table with Kurt Angle, but the table doesn't break. So the table spot doesn't quite go according to plan, but still looks brutal because the table doesn't break. They kind of bounce and slide off it. So that was quite, if anything, that would be one flaw. The table didn't break, so potentially the table spot didn't work. But I still think it really worked in the context of the story because it was so brutal.
Yeah. I mean, when a table doesn't break, I feel it's more, like you said, brutal anyway. One thing I will take from that, I don't remember this, but obviously we watched it earlier. The cameraman took the opportunity to film through the hole where the monitor was to look at Shawn Michaels under the desk. I thought that was quite a cool shot, to be fair. I thought that was a nice,
quite unique.
Yeah, I'll just film through there.
Yeah.
Just I think, is this where Angle gets busted open in the mouth, or was he bleeding before then? I
think you're right. I think it is, or I think he caught his knee. I think he caught Shawn Michaels' knee at some point.
Okay.
So whether it was this move or shortly before that, but it was on that side of the ring on the outside. He caught his knee, yes.
Because he gets back in the ring and he's like got his mouth open and blood's just kind of coming from his mouth.
And again, what a visual that is.
Yeah.
Because they're coming from two different sides of the ring, aren't they? And they're crawling towards each other.
Yeah.
And as you said, Angle's got the blood, and they sort of stumble up to their feet and just start throwing punches again. And then the crowd are back into it again. And it's just brilliant stuff, BenNny, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Like I said earlier, I'll give him a score in a bit, but it is a match that I may have just not forgot about it. I knew it was a good match, but probably didn't give it enough attention until now. So I'm glad my other match didn't win, to be fair, because this was a freaking brilliant match, to be honest with you.
We get another brilliant counter as Michaels goes for the sweet chin music, and Angle basically picks the leg, I guess, and turns it into the ankle lock. But Shawn gets to the ropes after a long and again, this is storytelling. He's gone for the ankle lock early on. Michaels has escaped it. He's gone for the ankle lock again. Michaels has escaped it. He's gone for the ankle lock here. Michaels is a bit more tired. He's in it for a longer period. He eventually gets to the ropes. So it's when you know the finish of the match, you can see the storytelling throughout the contest.
This is what I mean about working an arm or whatever. But is it this one where Michaels rolls through and it looks like Michael's leg like buckles or something, or his knee twists?
It looks
very uncomfortable, and I'm like, looking back at it. But yeah, like you said, the storytelling is good because I've tried it, you've got out of it. I've tried it again, you've got out of it. I've tried it, I've had it on a bit longer, you've got out of it. And how do I put this on without you getting out of it? Which is, like you said, now you know the finish. It makes sense that he's working out a way to put this move on so you don't get out of it. So I can, so yeah.
And on the other side of that, I suppose, Shawn early on is literally getting to the ropes or escaping the move. But as Shawn is getting more tired, he's getting more frantic to try and escape that hold.
Yes.
So again, it just makes sense. It's just great.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
It just makes common sense. It's not difficult. You don't need 87 backflips to tell a story.
Yeah.
Oh dear. The Angle slam is attempted once again. Shawn turns it into a sunset flip, which then gets turned into another ankle lock, which was a brilliant little sequence there. So cleverly done.
I think that's the one where his knee buckles a little bit.
Yeah,
I think
so
that's
clever.
The one. But the crowd reaction to this was brilliant because it was, and it was just like they almost like built upon it, and every time the crowd sort of hear, and it just kept rising.
And again, we
good.
said the crowd were quiet at the beginning, didn't we?
Yeah.
But by this stage, they're really whipping them up, aren't they? Into a big cauldron of noise in this arena.
And more and more people are standing as well. If you watch this back, more and more people are standing as this match is going on because they're like, I'm in this now. I'm in this, trying to, whoever they're cheering for, they're on the edge of their seat now, wanting to know who's going to win. Basically,
people are invested, aren't they? They've dragged them in.
Thank you.
Yeah,
you know me. I say 20 words when I mean 3. So
no worries. We get a moment where Shawn Michaels is looking like he's going for his top rope elbow drop again, but we get the patented Kurt Angle, I suppose, cat-like run, I suppose, where he scurries up the turnbuckles to grab him, and Angle slams him off the top. That
That's
looked
cool.
incredible as well.
That gave me flashbacks of King of the Ring, Shawn Michaels, not Shawn Michaels, sorry, Shane McMahon, 2001 on top of the board.
Oh,
Gave me flashbacks to that, man. So
that's a great match. That's a great match.
Yeah.
And then we get a moment that I remember like literally jumping out of my seat for when I watched it live, because we have Kurt Angle picking up the beaten and exhausted Shawn Michaels and shouting in his face about, why won't you stay down? Why won't you just tap?
Yeah.
You know, and then Shawn, it looks like he hasn't got enough room to hit the super kick, but he manages to somehow just pop his foot up and just crack him out the blue with, I suppose, a desperation last ditch sweet chin music. And I remember, as the big Shawn Michaels fan I am, seeing him hit that move first time round, watching live, and it literally got me out of my seat. It got that much of a reaction out of me.
Obviously, the ring's bigger on the inside. That's all I'm going to say on that one.
Right.
where the space was, I don't understand. Like you said, because you think, like, if it was Randy Orton you were picking up, you could see Randy Orton hitting an RKO because he's close enough. But for Michaels to like step back and hit the move like he does in that speed, you're like, I don't even know how you've done this, but it was freaking awesome. And then they stay down for a while, to be fair.
Michaels is selling that level of exhaustion he's experiencing. Obviously, Angle, in theory, he's just been kicked in the chops, so they're trying to portray him as basically being out cold. He's literally like starfish on the mat. He's out cold. Shawn crawls over, gets an arm across. Kurt kicks out at like 2.99 seconds. It's so close, but
It's
until he
gets to 3 without getting to 3.
Exactly, what a near fall that was. And then Michaels is trying to stumble up to his feet, and Kurt again, he's not moving. He looks out for the count, and as Michaels stumbles up to his feet, Kurt picks the ankle again. On goes the ankle lock. Brilliant. And it's just like, oh man. And then Shawn is scrapping and fighting. Now, I've got an issue with when people are in a submission hold for too long, because I think it makes the hold look weak, and I think it can make the finish of the match a little bit farcical, because they've been in the hold for that long and so on. But I think the way these two do it is great, because Shawn's in the hold for bloody ages, but he's trying to fight out of it, and every time he nearly escapes, Angle drags him back.
The crowd pops that as well. Every time Angle pops, pulls him back into the middle, and then eventually chucks that leg down to pin him in that situation. Yeah, you know.
That's it. Every time Shawn nearly escapes, Angle does something to apply a different type of pressure or a bit more pressure. And again, makes perfect sense. To which point then Shawn starts selling more, which again makes perfect sense, until eventually, like you said, BenNy, as you brilliantly explained, then he drops down, voices the leg out with his own legs. Shawn can go nowhere. And this moment here where Shawn is like just out of his hand, what should I tap? Should I not?
He did that so well. He did that so well. He really did.
And just behind him, because the camera's looking at Shawn, behind him on the floor, you can see Kurt Angle starting to apply even more pressure and more pressure and more pressure with his body movements and so on, until eventually Shawn Michaels taps out and Kurt Angle wins the match. And Angle leaves the match pretty quickly, and HBK gets a great ovation from the crowd. So.
It was a bloody great match. To be honest, like for some reason, I thought I'm pretty sure Angle wins this, and there was moments where it looked like HBK was going to win it. So I thought Angle won this match. So even I was a bit like unsure of who was going to win. But I thought there was going to be a moment. Actually, I thought we were going to have like a Steve Austin moment where he doesn't tap out, he passes out. I almost thought that was going to happen. But obviously, the way he did, as we explained, with the hand going down, and the crowd, I remember that bit where Michaels lifts his hand up and sort of goes down, but stops about, I don't know what that is in measurement, a half, half a foot or whatever. Yeah. The crowd almost start cheering because they think Michaels is tapped, but he hasn't actually done it yet. And there's moments where he's like, no, yes. And then eventually he does. And like you said, they did it so well, to be honest. The timing was brilliant. So it's a brilliant match.
Absolutely super. So good. So good. Out of 10 then, BenNy, what are you giving it, my friend?
This is a bit like a waiting room thing, because before I watched it, it probably would have been like a solid 7. Now I've watched, because of my memory not being like overly clear on it, it's a solid 9.5, mate. To be fair, it's a damn near perfect. I think almost a 10. I'm going to say 9.5 though. The referee annoyed me. That's nothing to do with the wrestlers. The referee annoyed me more than anything, to be honest. He seemed a bit too close, a bit too familiar in places. I thought he was playing pass cake at one point. He kept clapping all the time. I was like, "What are you doing?" I thought this isn't a tag match. What are you doing? No, he just felt a bit. The first 10 minutes or so, the referee felt a bit too close for my liking. He's got a referee. I get that. And then there's one bit where he even pulls Michaels away from Angle, which obviously then Angle gets the upper hand. But it made no sense in that. I don't know. He just annoyed me for some reason. I don't even know which referee it is, to be honest. I used to know every
it was Baby Hebner, wasn't it? Earl Hebner's son.
Okay, I thought it was, but I wasn't sure. But yeah. But to be fair, man, solid 9.5. I think.
Well, that's a really, really, really high score. To be fair.
So, like I said, my memory not being as it was, and not when I think of WrestleMania 21, I already said earlier about Undertaker, Orton, and stuff. My mind wasn't really there, I suppose. So a 7, I said, but yeah, 9.5, man. That's freaking great. I'm glad you made me watch it, to be honest, because I probably wouldn't have otherwise. So
fair enough. For me, ultimately, I love great wrestling. That's what I watch wrestling for, and I appreciate. I've seen some fantastic stuff in New Japan. That's a different style to this that I loved and thought was some of the best matches I've ever seen. I've seen some great stuff in AEW, which again is a completely different style, and again I think some of the best matches I've ever seen. And go back to the 80s, again a different style, but I still think it's some of the best matches I've ever seen, and so on. Just different matches from different contexts, being brilliant for what they were.
Yeah.
When it comes to the WWE style of wrestling, when it comes to sports entertainment, shall we say, and the product that they are putting forward and have put forward for so many decades, I think you're going to be really hard pressed to find a WWE match that is better than this. There may be some that are equal, but I think you're going to be really, really hard pressed to find some that are better. I'm not saying they're not out there, and by all means, I love different matches for different reasons. The Shawn Michaels ladder match is fantastic. Angle versus Benoit at Royal Rumble 2003, incredible contest. But to me, when it comes to WWE and the style of wrestling they put forward, it doesn't get much better from Vince McMahon and his lot than this. So I'm pulling the trigger, mate. It don't happen very often. To me, this is a 10.
Wow. Okay.
This is a full-on 10.
I mean, I was on the edge for a 10 anyway, so I went 9.5. But yeah, I can see why.
It was better than I remembered it being, and I remembered it being freaking amazing. So to me, this is a 10. Both of these guys, fair play. Take a bow. That was unbelievable.
That's cool, man. No, like I said, man, I'm glad you made me watch it. To be honest, it was a freaking great match, and I went and oh. It was quality, and I don't remember the crowd being that loud because I think I remember the crowd being quite quiet in the beginning, so I didn't give it much of a chance. I guess I don't know why my brain thought, not that I thought it was bad, like I said, but why my brain. Like when you pick a match, you go, I want to watch that again, or I want to watch that again. For whatever reason, this wasn't on my list, but it is now. So,
Shawn Michaels around this time was incredible. Kurt Angle around this time was incredible, and it was two of the best of that generation coming together at the right time. It's just so good, so good. So
I'm glad they did it now. Then when they did it, because if they'd done it a few years later, it wouldn't probably been as good. To be fair,
right. And I implore anyone who has not seen this match before, or who has not seen this match in a very long time, WrestleMania 21, Shawn Michaels versus Kurt Angle, go and check it out. It is well worth a part of your evening. It is that bloody good. But are we going to watch something as good next week? We have to both link to, from this match to another match, and then everyone in the CWF gets to vote on our Twitter poll to decide what next week's wrestling match will be. So, BenNy, what you got for us?
Are you making me go first again? Okay. Right, so, using the link of Shawn Michaels and WrestleMania, we're going to go back only a couple of years, to be fair, to actually one of my favorite matches. And like you said, Shawn Michaels' run was still in like sort of that earlier stage to a degree. He come back in SummerSlam. We've got a WrestleMania 19, and it's Jericho, one of my favorites of all time, against Shawn Michaels. And I feel like it's one of those matches where people remember WrestleMania 19 probably for Brock and Kurt. Bloody great match again, although Brock nearly killed himself in the process. There's some great matches on that card, to be fair.
Yeah.
Stone Cold and Rock as well. It's a good WrestleMania. Because it's earlier on in the show, I feel like Chris Jericho Michaels kind of doesn't get forgotten, but kind of gets swept under a little bit. And you think, other things, a bit like I did with this WrestleMania, to be fair. So yeah, my pick is Chris Jericho versus Shawn Michaels, WrestleMania 19.
Absolute belter of a pick. That is a storming match. And again, that's one that when Michaels came back in 2002, we've on this show we've covered his comeback match at SummerSlam, and we've covered the Elimination Chamber as well, where he won the world title at Survivor Series 2002. This run of Shawn Michaels' career, I was all about this. I was fully invested in watching WWE again because Shawn was my guy growing up. So when he came back and seeing him wrestle, him against Jericho, it's the same as him against Angle, really. Him against Jericho is one of those matches where I thought, oh, wow, this is going to be good. And
it's a wrestler's dream match, isn't it? It's a wrestler's dream match, in a sense of like nothing wrong with Rock Hogan. That's like it is the entertainer icons, and then you have like people like Ric Flair, Michaels, Kurt Angle, Jericho, and you have the wrestlers' dream matches. So yeah, I would definitely say Jericho and Michaels is definitely up there in terms of wrestlers' dream matches. I think
brilliant storytelling as well. Really good shape, BenNny. Really good shape. Great contest.
And they did it again a few years later, didn't they? They did it a few years. Well, back in the ladder match and everything. They had the SummerSlam accidental punch and all that kind of stuff going on.
Oh yeah,
that was really brilliant. That was a freaking great. And again, we go back to that thing of you don't have to have it done within a month. It could be done over about 6 months to a year, and as long as it's done right. So that's again a different podcast. Sorry, I'm talking.
Perhaps we'll fire up an episode of SJP for you and me to sit down and criticize all the things about modern wrestling that we don't like.
An hour on DDTs, mate, to be honest.
an hour on DDTs, an hour on Hogan no selling a pile driver and making me sick to the stomach and stuff like that. Oh no, that is a great shout. Chris Jericho, Shawn Michaels, WrestleMania 19. Absolutely fantastic WrestleMania, by the way. If you can miss the first couple of matches off, I think Matt Hardy is in the opener, and I think we've got The Undertaker versus A-Train and Big Show, I think. If you ignore those and get to maybe even Michaels Jericho and start from there, you have got some absolutely storming wrestling matches on that show. Well worth a watch. But yeah, Michaels Jericho, brilliant shape. See, I rack my brains for hours, mate. How can I get to Barry Windham from here? No, I'm joking. I've not got a Barry Windham match.
Once parked his car at that arena.
Yeah, that's it. My link is actually pretty straightforward, and it involves two things that I believe we need to watch a little bit more of on Chain Wrestling. I mean, this is our 43rd live episode, and then you add all the audio only episodes that came out originally, and we're fast approaching 100 episodes. So I don't think we've covered enough of this particular company and this particular wrestler as well. So my link is Kurt Angle. Okay. And I'm going to go a very straightforward link is another Kurt Angle match. I really enjoyed watching this. I want to go and see another Kurt Angle match, but I don't think we see enough from TNA. A lot of great wrestling happened in TNA.
Some great matches,
and yeah, definitely, mate, definitely. And I don't think we see enough. He's only been on the pole once. I'm not sure he won. Oh, he did win against CM Punk. We've not seen enough TNA. I don't think we've seen anywhere near enough Samoa Joe. So I would like to, using Kurt Angle as the link, head to TNA Genesis 2006 and watch Kurt Angle versus Samoa Joe. And for those concerned about access to it, it is on YouTube. If it wins, I will share a link. So don't worry.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah,
we haven't got to try and rely on just the WWE network. It is accessible on YouTube. So those are your choices for next week. We have Shawn Michaels versus Chris Jericho in an absolute belter of a contest at WrestleMania 19. And I mean, for it to stand out on that show with the matches that are on that show with it says how good a contest it is.
Yeah.
And then we have Samoa Joe versus Shawn Michaels from Genesis 2006 in TNA.
Kurt Angle, mate, not Shawn Michaels.
Ah, dear me. It's getting late, BenNny. It's getting late. Kurt Angle versus Samoa Joe, from Genesis TNA 2006. As always, you can be taking part in the poll there to decide where we go next week on our Twitter vote, which will come out shortly after the audio version escapes us later in the week. BenNy, it's been an absolute blast again, my friend. Do you want to let everyone know whereabouts they can find you online and all your content and so on?
Just it's so easy. It's just to go to @BenNy Mac on Twitter, BenNyMack. There's a link tree for everything I'm up to and trying to do, and we've just brought a show back called The Nothingness Show, inspired by because we did it back in about 2019. The idea came out in 2018 because I made the Twitter for it, so I got confused. Basically, it's I don't want to say it's a bit like Morty and Fitch to a degree. Fitch and Morty. What's the show called again? Morty and Fitch. I always get the names wrong. Morty and Fitch, isn't it? Sorry, guys. I'm only a new subscriber to that show. To be fair, I love it. But it brought the idea. It is good, but it brought the idea back to me that we did a show called The Nothingness Show. There's a whole story behind it. I won't waste your time now. But we did it in we went into like a local cafe or whatever and just sat down and had a chat about whatever. And it's called The Nothingness Show, and we talk about everything and nothing. So it can literally be about bloody anything, mate, to be fair. Hopefully it was episode Morty and Fitch. Haha, my apologies, Danny. But yeah, it's good. But yeah, like I said, sorry, I'm rambling. At BenNny Mac on Twitter. And there's a link tree in there for it, guys. So
yeah, and check it all out. All the Twitch streaming stuff.
Gaming stuff as well is good, man. To be fair, the wrestling stuff I've got going at the minute. Sunday we're doing a show about 7:15. Our first pay-per-view for that. So come in and stop by and see what you think. Hopefully something you like. So
yeah, check that out. All the Twitch streaming, as I said, the paranormal podcast coming soon, BenNny, as well, which I'm looking forward to a great deal. Yeah, great stuff, mate. Lots of things happening, mate. Lots of things happening. Always good, isn't it?
I'm trying to work on the paranormal show. It is happening. It's just taking longer than I expected. Real life, mate. And trying to do.
I know what you mean.
That podcast, our podcast, and all these other things I want to do, and then also try and have a job. So if this could be our job, it wouldn't be a problem.
That's living the dream if that happens, mate.
Of course it is. Yeah, of course. Appreciate you letting me come on again, Si.
No, I enjoyed it, mate. Awesome. Thank you for stepping in at such late notice as well. You can find me on Twitter at SJPWords, and if you rather use the Book of Face, then you can find my group there, SJP, all the shows and info. And both of those are good points of contact if you want to just get hold of me, talk about anything in particular, any particular shows or anything like that, or find links to anything I'm involved in. Whether that's old articles that I once wrote once upon a time that I share there, any podcasts I'm involved in, for example, Chain Wrestling here, or Nitro Nights that I do with Scottish Danny that pops out once a week, looking back on WCW one show at a time. The Doctor Who pod with our good friend Dan Griffin, which is the end of season 1, is out tomorrow. So, tomorrow if you're watching live, yesterday if you're listening to the audio version on the Wednesday. It's out on a Tuesday, put it that way. Me and Dan are looking back on everything we covered in season 1, and basically running it down in a countdown format, putting our least favorite to favorite of the 14 stories we covered there. We also, of course, have the waiting room that I do with this bad influence reprobate next to me here, looking at Quantum Leap, one episode at a time. I love that show so much. I'm really, really glad that we're back with season 2 on that one as well. But yeah, most importantly, of course, you can find this show at Chain_Wrestling on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and that TikTok thingamy. But again, at SJP Words for everything I am involved in. BenNny, it's been an absolute blast again, my friend. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm off now to probably go and watch the rest of WrestleMania 19 because it is that bloody good a card. I'll speak to everyone next week.
Cheers.